So the new federal THC hemp ban is affecting tons of states, both legal and prohibition states. But certain states that you traditionally expect to be against the good herb are in fact fighting back against the THC hemp ban by making their own laws around THC. Meanwhile, other states that have already fully legalized, they're going the complete opposite direction. They're cracking down on THC hemp, but finally opening up sales for recreational herb. And the crazy thing is that amidst all this, the feds have launched a wild ad campaign, all to say that you do not drive better when you're high.
I'm serious, man. I actually drive better when I'm high. If anything, I'm more careful. More chill. More relaxed. It just helps me focus. It just helps me focus, you know?
So that ad is pretty crazy, and what's even crazier is that they're using some of those vape pens that are pretty common. But let's break that ad down, because according to this article, the new ad campaign was launched by the Department of Transportation and the Ad Council, and they rolled out that new ad to challenge the dangerous belief that it's safe to drive after consuming the good herb. Now, according to this, and I quote, the ad campaign represents a departure from recent cannabis-related ads which have taken a less just say no approach to marijuana use risk messaging and at times leaned into cannabis culture while promoting education around the potential consequences of driving while high. And they push the slogan, if you feel different, you drive different. They aim to discourage impaired driving around Thanksgiving and winter holidays like Christmas. So that ad was pretty crazy. Let me know what you guys think about that in the comments below. But next, let's take it over to Texas, because that federal THC hemp ban actually surprised a lot of folks over in Texas, especially considering the fact that just a few months ago, they were also facing a similar type of ban.
A signed bill to reopen the federal government also included a surprise ban.
It has a provision to make hemp products with an intoxicating effect illegal. That's bad news for the estimated 8,000 hemp businesses here in Texas.
Sherman Chow is in the newsroom now with what the measure says and the potential impacts here in Houston. Sherman.
Yeah, so Mia and Ron, this was a surprise amendment slipped into the larger funding package for reopening the government, but it could have a major impact on people across all walks of life, including small business owners and employees. That's because the Hemp Business Council estimates the derived cannabinoid industry is worth about $5.5 billion and employs 53,000 workers in Texas. So the bottom line on this new law, it requires any THC used in a product to be directly extracted from the hemp plant at trace levels. Those are capped at 0.4 milligrams per container or at non-intoxicating levels. So that includes the popular Delta 8 and nearly all of the popular edibles, beverage, and smokable forms of hemp. So does all this sound a little familiar? It should. Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick tried to pass a similar state law, but was thwarted when Governor Abbott pushed through alcohol-like restrictions instead of a full ban on hemp THC. This, of course, for Texas. So this new federal law will take effect in 1 year. That does give the hemp industry a little time to react. During the next year, Congress could debate the issue further, maybe move toward greater regulation instead of an outright ban, as we saw here in Texas. And that is what many in the hemp industry are pushing for. Of course, we'll have to wait and see. Guys?
And while that is a running theme that we'll have to wait to see what happens, especially at the federal level, certain states are implementing their own laws at the state level. And there's a perfectly clear example right here in Texas, because Texas officials are moving forward with hemp regulations despite the newly approved federal ban. So that's great for Texas, and it's something that we may see other states follow suit with. But it's not only that, because over in Texas, officials have also adopted rules to expand the number of medical dispensaries in the state. And sticking with the medical patients, regulations, they've also finalized new rules to let doctors recommend new qualifying conditions as well as prescribe THC inhalation devices. Now this is big because over in Texas, the medical program, Teacup, it's super restrictive, and a lot of folks have complained that it's so restrictive that a lot of people just don't have access, and when you do, it's really expensive. And on top of that, the options that were available through the program were really limited. Now it's great to see that Texas is making laws around THC hemp and attempting to regulate it rather than going for a straight out ban. But what we're also seeing is that folks like Texas Agricultural Commissioner, he is speaking out, and he calls for a repeal of the federal hemp ban, which President Trump signed into law.
Texas vape and smoke shops are waiting to see if a federal ban on most THC products will be allowed to take effect as is.
The measure was added in a bill to reopen the federal government. Fox 4's Stephen Dial has more.
When the federal government reopened, in that continuing resolution was something involving THC products, which will have implications here in Texas. I spoke to Texas Agriculture Commissioner Sid Miller, who says he thinks the federal government may make some changes, but he supports regulations. The funding package passed by Congress included language banning the sale of hemp-derived products with more than 0.4 milligrams of THC, the psychoactive element in marijuana. That amount is considered a very low microdose. Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, who supports a total ban, applauded the move, claiming highly intoxicating THC will essentially be banned in America. Miller says he supports a ban on synthetic products and more regulations.
What happened on the federal level is much better because it's uniform from state to state. It's a level playing field now. It outlaws the synthetics, and that was the problem. When we implemented our hemp growing rules, those synthetics didn't exist.
Do you think all-out ban should be the solution, or do you think regulation should be the solution?
Well, I don't want an all-out ban because I want those veterans with PTSD to be able to get treated and get their their medical condition. It helps. I mean, we've got the research now that helps a lot of ailments.
Miller says the federal change would not be implemented for a year, but recognizes if it stays as it is, it could result in many of the 8,000 vape and smoke shops across Texas closing. He thinks Congress will make some changes before it takes effect.
The yeas are 60 and the nays are...
So it's clear to see that there are officials in Texas who are in favor of regulation over an all-out ban. And in speaking of regulation, they actually posted a hemp law checklist to help businesses comply with state cannabis rules. And this covers things such as age gating and ID checks, but it also covers things such as licensing. So something like this definitely signals to me an openness to regulate rather than ban. And with a big part of the prohibitionist argument saying that these products are getting into the hands of kids, I think that enforcing age requirements is a good thing, and it's clear to see that Texas is doing that because Texas DPS troopers are also enforcing age restrictions on hemp products with THC. Have a look. I do think enforcement of regulations is a good thing because the only alternatives would be a flat-out ban or things run crazy like the Wild Wild West, and having the police at certain points just enforce some of these regulations is not absolutely crazy and not the worst thing that we've ever heard or seen. In fact, we've seen a similar situation in legal states like over in Virginia, where they've also cracked down on THC hemp. And we'll show you guys a little bit more about that in a bit, but before we do, just a quick reminder, if you're getting value from this video, please do like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And if you want to support us further, join the ICANN VIP Bean Club or just cop some merch from our merch store. And as you guys can see, we got that new American grown hoodie on, the Good Herb. Make sure to grab yours before they're all gone. And if you happen to be a home gardener, try the ICANN Organics, use the code LEGAL. It works on the bundle and the seeds.
We now know several businesses across Virginia owe tens of thousands of dollars in penalties for allegedly violating the state's new hemp law.
Alex Littlehales explains where inspectors are finding the issues in our area.
This Chesapeake storefront is one of at least 7 in Virginia facing state fines over alleged violations of the state's new hemp laws. In a report requested by 13 News Now, state inspectors with the Virginia Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services found improper permitting and mislabeling at the Chesapeake Tobacco and Vape Shop. The total bill checks in at $13,000, which the owner can drop to $6,500 if he pays within 30 days.
We want to see it dialed back basically for the good folks of the industry, but we definitely want to clean up the products that are out there. So if you really want to solve the problem, what you do is you regulate it in a fair way and you let the good products stay on the marketplace.
Inspectors cite permitting issues and found 5 products not in compliance with state food and drink code. The 5 products listed are here: 2 Delta-8 drink enhancers, a Delta-8 liquid, CBD gummy worms, and another Delta-8 product. Based on other VDAX data, this shop appears to be the first in the Hampton Roads region written up by the department. But businesses west of our viewing area face fines worth tens of thousands of dollars, including one in Gate City, whose fines total $98,000. I'm Alex Littlehales for 13 News Now.
So even in places like Virginia, where they do have legal recreational herb, we are seeing a situation where they're in fact cracking down on a lot of these hemp sales. And I mean, it makes sense because some of these products may not necessarily be regulated, and some of them may be skirting already existing state laws. Now, that being said, personally, I'm not in agreement with cracking down and banning a lot of these products, but we are seeing a situation where, on the flip side, Virginia is finally taking steps to legalize sales of the good herb. Now, with Virginia, it's a little bit of a special case. Sort of like how Washington State is a special case. They have legal recreational everything, but not home grows. Over in Virginia, it's a little bit different. They have home grows, but they have no way for you to legally purchase the good herb because there's no recreational shops set up that actually sell any of these products. And it's crazy because Virginia became the first southern state to legalize adult use in 2021, allowing adults 21 and older to possess up to 1 ounce and cultivate up to 4 plants at home, but the law included no mechanism for sales, and successive retail market bills were blocked by vetoes from the outgoing governor. But now it seems that a legal retail market for sales could finally be coming to Virginia following their recent election. Have a look.
Election Day 2025 will be remembered here in Virginia for its history and the change of power in favor of the Democratic Party. One policy issue that could soon take center stage is marijuana use in the Commonwealth. WDBJ 7's Colby Johnson breaks down how our new leadership could change Virginia's cannabis regulations.
While it has been legal for adults over the age of 21 to use and possess marijuana since 2021, there's no retail market in the state. Republican Governor Glenn Youngkin has twice vetoed bills that would have allowed recreational retail sales of marijuana over the last 4 years. Now, with Democrat Abigail Spanberger set to take office in January, things will likely change.
Governor-elect Spanberger was clear on the campaign trail that she supports the legislature's effort to take marijuana off the street corner and put it behind an age-verified counter.
The National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws says the General Assembly's Joint Commission to oversee the transition of the Commonwealth into a cannabis retail market will introduce a bill in the 2026 General Assembly. If it passes and is signed into law, retail marijuana sales could begin as early as July in dispensaries that currently only sell medical marijuana.
It also allows the ability to ensure there are strict consumer safety standards in place, just like we have right now with medical cannabis in Virginia.
However, organizations like Smart Approaches to Marijuana are against the idea of a retail marijuana market in Virginia. It says there are a number of concerns, like a potential increase in marijuana use among youth and the high risk of addiction.
The highest, kind of level of concern that we have is kids, their access to it, and ensuring that the public health harms are as mitigated as possible with these high-potency THC products that are causing mental and physical harm to people who use them.
With Democrats also set to control both houses of the General Assembly, Jordan Davidson acknowledges that a retail marijuana market in Virginia is all but a guarantee. He says he's hopeful that Spanberger's administration will prioritize health and safety when regulating the market with things like potency caps.
We have 3 states, Connecticut, Vermont, and Montana, that have some form of marijuana potency caps. On concentrates, you can get them, as low as you'd like. We'd love to see, something anywhere between really 5 and 10 or at the upper bounds 15% THC potency cap.
In Roanoke, Colby Johnson, WDBJ.
So that's fantastic for folks over in Virginia. And while some of Governor Spanberger's policies I may not necessarily agree with, I do think that folks having a legal pathway to access recreational herb is really interesting and also super important. And what we're seeing now is a change because other lawmakers are also coming out in support of a recreational market. Check it out.
Well, Dana Connor, State Senator Aaron Rouse has supported legislation for the sale of recreational marijuana in the Commonwealth. And with the new administration taking over in the state capitol, Rouse says we could see legislation come up about the matter again. On Thursday, State Senator Aaron Rouse met with local leaders to discuss next steps in Virginia Beach's 10-1 voting system. At the meeting, Rouse hinted at supporting legislation that brings the sale of recreational marijuana to Virginia.
Any measure that we can take to find revenues, I'm very optimistic about that approach.
Rouse says with the current administration at the federal level making cuts to programs that generate money for the state, Virginia needs to do what it can to create new revenue.
We in Virginia have to take every step we can to make sure we find revenues that strengthens our communities, that strengthens our education process, that put foods on the table, that gets people back to work.
Governor Glenn Youngkin has repeatedly vetoed the idea of a recreational marijuana market, saying it has the potential to drive up crime rates and adolescent use.
We see across other states that have had retail markets for a while, a massive increase in adolescent usage, a massive increase in child poisonings.
And Drive Safe Hampton Roads tells 13 News Now the sale of recreational marijuana could have impacts on drivers and police when right now there isn't a legal limit of marijuana usage.
Now that would be something that Virginia would have to wrestle with. The Commonwealth would have to decide what is that limit. States are adjudicating those differently.
Now members of the Joint Commission to oversee the transition of the Commonwealth into a cannabis retail market said at a recent meeting they intend to make legislative recommendations at their next meeting, but it will be up to the General Assembly to decide what legislation or recommendations move forward.
So things are definitely looking promising for Virginia, and clarifying some of those laws and finally opening up a recreational legal market will be fantastic. And it'll also avoid situations where folks like these 41 people who got detained at a pop-up shop in Portsmouth, it'll stop things like that from happening. Have a look.
Is it legal to carry around marijuana in Virginia? Kinda. The laws surrounding weed in the Commonwealth are really confusing. And recently, about 40 people were detained after police raided a pop-up weed shop in Portsmouth. So let me break it all down. If you're over the age of 21, you can have weed in your possession, but it must be less than 1 ounce. More than an ounce, but less than a pound is going to earn you a misdemeanor charge and a fine. Having more than 1 pound of marijuana is going to get you a felony charge. You are allowed to grow your own weed, but you can't have more than 4 plants, and if they're visible to the public, you will face a fine. And having 50 or more plants is a felony. Right now, there are bills moving through the state legislature that will add regulations to marijuana and even hemp products. So like some of your lotions and stuff. To learn more, just go to...
So it's clearly a little bit of a problem. There are literally news stations reporting on how some of these laws are a little bit confusing and how easy it is for people to run foul of some of these laws. But all that said, let me know what you guys think about everything that we discussed in today's video, from what's happening down in Texas and them fighting back against the federal hemp ban, to what's happening over in Virginia where they're cracking down on THC hemp but finally opening up a recreational market. Let me know what you guys think about all that in the comment section down below. Now in our next video, there's another state which is surprisingly also cracking down on hemp, and that's California, but there's a secret reason for that and we exposed it. So if you haven't seen that video, check it out. It's coming up right now.